Hello, I'm going to make a short video about spring jumps because recently there are two new methods that are much more efficient than the common scoreboard method. To do this, however, you need an Elite 2 controller or a XIM, and in this little video I perform all spring jumps using one of these methods. There are already a lot of videos on spring jumps on YouTube, and I will link some of good videos in the description if you want to find out more about this topic. So most of you already know what a spring jump is and know some methods, although the last two methods I will introduce are pretty new and unknown. Nevertheless, I will explain again in the video what a spring jump is, what's so difficult about it, and then introduce the individual methods in detail. The methods I will cover are the manual spring jump, the start button, and the scoreboard method. If you have an Elite 1 controller, you can use a button layout swapping method. And with the Elite 2 controller, you have a shift button option and the same kind of option you have with the XIM Apex with the auxiliary profiles. A spring jump is a technique that allows you to jump higher than with a normal jump. And this allows you to reach higher places that would not be reached with a normal jump. So it's very important for movement. For a manual spring jump, you only need your jump button and your crouch button. You first jump, and when you're in the air, you press crouch and hold crouch until you're back on the ground, and you wait a little, and then you release crouch and you jump at the exact same time. And with the perfect timing, you're going to perform the spring jump and gain this additional height. Now I have a video with a hand cam so you can see all the buttons that I press while I perform the spring jump. And first I'm gonna press my jump button right here. So I jump, and as soon as I'm in the air, I'm gonna press my crouch button right here, and I hold it. You can see I hold it down until I'm back on the ground. And right now, as soon as I'm on the ground, I'm gonna release my my crouch button and press jump at the exact same time right here. As you can see, I performed a spring jump and I could climb on a ledge, which I couldn't do with a normal jump. So it's important to perform these two actions, jump and crouch, at the exact same time, otherwise the spring jump won't work. And that's the hardest part, doing both of these actions at the exact same time, which is why the spring jump with the manual method is very inconsistent. And therefore methods have been found to make only this part right here consistent. So the spring jump works 100%. And the first method I'm gonna show you is the start button method. With the start button method, you jump and keep jump pressed for the entire period. As soon as you're in the air, you press crouch and hold it down. Then press start and let go of crouch. While start is activated, your character remains in the crouch position, even though you're no longer pressing crouch. So when you get back on the ground, you're still crouching, even though you don't press crouch. After you press start again and come out of the start menu, the crouch action ends because you have not pressed crouch anymore. And at the exact same time, jump is activated because jumping has been pressed for the entire period and is still active. Therefore, by exiting the start button menu, crouch is ended and jump is activated at the exact same time. First, I'm gonna press my jump button right here and hold it down for the entire period. Now, when I'm in the air, I'm gonna press my crouch button as well and hold it down. So I have crouch and jump, hold down. Next step is I press the start button. So I'm in the start button menu right now. After that, I'm letting go of crouch, but still have my jump button hold down. Now, as soon as I press the start button again right here, crouch is getting deactivated, and because it's not hold down anymore, and jump is getting activated because it's hold down for the entire period. And as you can see, I'm performing the spring jump. Unfortunately, with this method, it's not possible to move, watch the game, and perform other actions while pressing start. So that's why this method is the worst in my opinion. A similar but better method is the Scoreboard method, which I would recommend if you use a default controller. The Scoreboard method works similar to the start button method, only that you now use the scoreboard instead of the start button. The function of the scoreboard and the start button is the same for spring jumping. The only difference is, since you come out of the scoreboard, if you haven't pressed it, you have to hold it down compared to the start button method. This method is pretty similar to the start button method. You first jump and hold it down for the whole duration, and when you're in the air, you press crouch and hold it down as well. Next step, and that's the difference, you press the scoreboard instead of the start button, and you also hold it down so you don't get out of the scoreboard menu. The next step is you release the crouch button right here, and the next thing is you release the scoreboard button right here. And as soon as you release the scoreboard button, you're gonna perform the spring jump exactly how you did it with the start button method, because crouch is getting deactivated and jump is getting activated at the exact same time when you release the scoreboard button. The advantage of this method is that you can move while pressing the scoreboard. However, you still have the scoreboard on the screen and do not see the map so well, and cannot press any actions while you have the scoreboard activated. If you own an Elite 1 controller, then you have the option to use a button layout method. The Elite 1 controller has the option of creating two button layout profiles that you can switch by shifting the button in the middle, left and right. However, I cannot recommend this method, since this button is hard to reach and you have to get your thumb off the aimer. So even if you own an Elite 1 controller, I would still recommend the scoreboard method. Also, I don't own an Elite 1 controller, so will only show you how it works in theory and give you a link if you want to get more into it. So first, you copy your current button layout in the Xbox accessory app, and then change the jump and the crouch button. So first, you have your profile 1 activated. It's your regular button layout, and you press jump and hold jump through the whole duration of the spring jump. As soon as you're in the air, you shift your button layout button in the middle, and your jump button becomes your crouch button. What means you're gonna crouch in the air, and also when you're in the ground, you are in a crouch position. Now you shift this button layout button back, and your crouch button becomes your jump button. What means, since you are already crouching on the ground, your crouch is getting cancelled, and at the same time your jump is getting activated, what means you're doing the spring jump. The next method is the shift button method. This method is possible if you own an Elite 2 controller, and in my opinion it's the best option you currently have. What you need to do is you need to define a shift button of your choice, and then you have to change your crouch button with your jump button as long as this shift button is activated. What means, as long as you press this button, your crouch becomes your jump. And there are two huge advantages that this method has over the Elite 1. The first one is that this button, or this button layout, is only active as long as you press it. Like with the Elite 1, you have to swipe this button in the middle, left and right, to change the button layouts. What means if you are in a fight, or if you want to perform a spring jump and then you're getting shot and you're in a fight, there is a risk that you have the wrong button layout activated. And with this one, you just have to get your thumb or whatever off this button, and you have your correct button layout again. The next advantage is that you can map the shift button wherever you want to in your controller. With the Elite 1, you had this button to change your button layout always right here in the middle, what means you had to take your thumb off the aimer every time you wanted to swipe it left and right. Right here I have my shift button on my left arrow key. In the video where I will show you how to perform the spring jump with this method, I have the shift button on my back pedal, so that's really your choice and what makes it so much easier to use. So what you do now is you first jump, and as soon as you're in the air, you crouch and hold crouch as long as you're on the ground. So it means right now you are on the ground, crouched, and then you press your shift button right here. And your crouch action becomes your jump action. These actions are getting switched, what means you are crouched on the ground in a crouch position, and now since these buttons change, crouch is getting cancelled and jump is getting activated at the same time, what means you perform the spring jump, and as soon as you release this shift button, you have the correct button layout again. The first thing you're gonna do now is you press jump, and as soon as you're in the air, you're gonna press crouch and hold it. When you're back on the ground, you press your shift button, what means your crouch action becomes your jump action. And since you're on the ground crouching, your crouch action is getting cancelled and your jump action is getting activated, what means you perform the spring jump. And the next thing is you just have to release the shift button right here, and you have a correct button layout again. The next method with auxiliary profiles is for everyone using Xim Apex. And it's important to understand that you most likely can't just copy what you see here. It really depends if you use a mouse and keyboard or, like I do, a mouse and controller combination. And it also depends what button layout you're using. And first looks pretty complicated, but it's actually pretty simple and works similar to the shift button method. So what you need to do here is you have your initial profile in your Xim, and you have an auxiliary profile. And what you need to do first is you need a button to activate this auxiliary profile, what is in this case Q. And I have Q on my mouse here, so whenever I press this button, this auxiliary profile is getting activated. Then I have crouch, normally on my controller, what I normally use, but also on 0. It means if I have 0 on my mouse right here, if I make a mouse wheel left click, I'm gonna crouch. And in my auxiliary profile, I have jump on 0. It's the same button. What means I first press crouch on 0 here, then I hold it, I click my shift button Q to activate this auxiliary profile, and then my crouch button becomes my jump button. And for example, if you use a keyboard, then this crouch button could be a control key. So as I said, it really depends what hardware you're using. Unfortunately, it's not possible with the Xim to have access to your shift button on your controller. What means you cannot just change your controller button layout with this button. What means If I initially use my left stick to crouch, I cannot just click the crouch button in, or click the crouch stick in, press Q, and then my crouch becomes jump. It doesn't work. So I basically only use this button if I want to perform a spring jump, and for everything else in the game that has to do with crouch, I just press in my left stick on the controller that I hold in my left hand. So to perform the spring jump, you first jump, and as soon as you're in the air, you press crouch on your mouse or keyboard, not the controller, that doesn't work, and you hold down crouch. After that, you press your shift button, and your crouch button becomes your jump button. What means, since you're on the ground crouching, your crouch action is getting cancelled, and at the same time you're gonna jump, what means you're gonna perform the spring jump. So to show you real quick where you can find these settings, you first have to make sure that you have expert mode activated. And in your profile, you see your initial sim profile. And if you swipe 2 times to the right, then you see the auxiliary profiles. Now you have to make sure that you have this dot not activated and also this dot not activated. And basically, your initial profile needs to be exactly same like the auxiliary profile. The only difference is that you have your crouch action swapped with your jump action. So what you need to do first is you press jump, and as soon as you're in the air, you're gonna press your crouch button and hold it down. When you're back on the ground, you're gonna press your shift button to activate the auxiliary profile. That means your crouch button, what you're currently holding, becomes your jump button. So since you're on the ground already crouching, the crouch action is getting cancelled, and at the same time your jump action is getting activated, what means you're going to perform the spring jump. And yeah, that's basically it. So the conclusion of this video is, depending what hardware you're using and what button layout you're using, you have different options how to perform the spring jump. If you're using a standard controller or an Elite 1 controller, I would recommend the Scoreboard method. And if you have an Elite 1 controller, then you have also the option to map some buttons. For example, you could put a scoreboard on your back pedal and make the spring jump more efficiently. If you have an Elite 2 controller, then you should 100% use the shift button method. And if you use Extreme Apex with a mouse and keyboard, then you should 100% use the auxiliary method. With Extreme Apex and a mouse and controller combination, it really depends if you own an Elite 2 controller, and it also depends on your button layout. For me, I have to use the auxiliary profile because I use bumper jumper and I have my back pedals with sprint and thrust, what means I need an additional button on my mouse to crouch. But for example, if you have an Elite 2 controller and you say you want to have on your back pedal a shift button and put sprint or thrust or whatever on your mouse, then that would work too. So it really depends on your button layout, what hardware you're using, and your preferences. And yeah, if you and there's also the option just to use to make the spring jump like how it's supposed to be if you're that good, but I think most people are not that consistent with it. So yeah, that's the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. And in case you want to find out more about all these mechanics, I will have some links in the description how to inform how to do all this thrust, stabilize, and all that stuff after what I'm doing in the video after the spring jumps. And yeah, thanks for watching.